feel like Kobe in the fourth quarter.
This is the Dane Moore NBA podcast. We are brought to you by Prize Picks, coming at you Tuesday night. It is October 7th. I'm joined here in the studio with Wolves beat writer Chris Hine, and Chris and I are test driving an immediate post-game pod. We want to mix these in during the season where Chris and I head right over here after the game to do a pod rather than waiting until the morning to record, which should mean you'll have these episodes in your feed in the morning rather than needing to wait till the afternoon. And yeah, Chris, what better game than the overtime thriller?
We were planning this and we're like, oh, this is going to be a quick night, preseason game, post-game interviews are going to go quick. And then the basketball gods were like, ha, ha, ha. We're going to throw overtime at you in the preseason. So, and a long game to begin with too. I was looking, it was like 9:35 and regulation was still happening. So yeah, I mean, we're doing this because we both prefer to be night owls. I think
that is the real,
I'm not a morning person.
Yeah.
So,
I figure, do an extra hour now rather than wake up in the morning.
You don't have to wake up.
Yeah. And I think it's you
don't have to do it hungover.
I don't know if that was going to be the problem tonight, but
right.
Yes. All right, let's talk about this game a little bit from what we saw. I think the most relevant part of it is it's our first time seeing the starters or the main guys.
Right.
Jaden McDaniels did not play in this game. Sounds like he had his child, so he missed that game for personal reasons. But it was Rudy Gobert, Julius Randle, Naz Reid at the 3 in Jaden McDaniels' place, and Anthony Edwards played, and Mike Conley played. So it was our first look at the quote unquote starters. Right. And honestly, the number one thing that stood out to me is they're playing Indiana, and that starting group struggled with the same things that they struggled with against Indiana last season when they lost to them twice kind of at the end of the season. It was before we knew Indiana was good. And Indiana is definitely good at this, which is running and pushing the pace against the Wolves. And specifically the starting unit struggled against that last season some. So I think given how much transition has been a point of emphasis for this team, the Wolves team, for them to struggle there, I thought it wasn't starting off the starters on the best foot. What stood out to you about that element of the game?
Yeah, just how much they struggled with the ball pressure early. Just getting it up the floor was a challenge, and so even just getting set up in the half court was an issue. And it kind of felt like watching, in some cases, that Western Conference Finals last year. Dillingham struggled with it. I think was it McConnell that picked him in the backcourt that one time. Everybody was struggling with it at different points in time. And defensively, they were just a step slow when the Pacers were getting out and running. And yeah, it's preseason, and if they were more, you expect them to be more dialed in the regular season to maybe a game plan and what a team's tendencies are. But yeah, that's what stood out, like just how much of a mismatch, and just the way that Indiana, just the way it's so ingrained within them, how this is how they play. Tyrese Halliburton's not there, but it doesn't matter. They all know how they want to play. They all know their responsibilities. They all know what to do. They all kind of have their roles, and they go out and they execute on a night-to-night basis. And you saw that last year when Indiana was here in Minnesota, and basically their B squad beat the Wolves that night
because they played that way.
And so I think if you're the Wolves, Finch kind of said it well before the game. He's like, this is kind of the ideal team for them to play in the preseason, because they're going to take something from this game. I think what they're going to take is, ooh, man, we gotta really shape up if we're going to be different against these kind of teams this year. We have a long way to go. It's one thing to talk about these things, but seeing one of the prime examples of how a team plays with this kind of organization and structure and these habits and this discipline is really stark when you compare it to where the Wolves say they want to go.
Yeah, I like that you brought up the ball pressure part on Indiana's part, because what that does, if you're picking up full court and you're bringing that ball pressure, you are slowing down the Wolves, right? And
Yes.
then on the other side, they're getting and running. So it was just watching the first quarter, a Wolves possession felt like a slog and a Pacers possession felt like a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
And that is, I mean, that is kind of what both of those teams were last season. And the Wolves won more regular season games. The Wolves were arguably as good, if not better, of a team than them. So I'm not saying, I don't know, that like Indiana is better than them or broke them or anything. But I go back to what is the number one thing we've heard at media day and in training camp? And it was about playing faster.
Yeah.
And doing that. And I watched that first quarter with the quote unquote starters. And I go, that looked like a first quarter that I watched last season from this team. Again, a team that was good.
Yep.
But a team that needs to get better. And an area they're focusing on getting better is being able to play faster and not this. So yes, it was their first game of the preseason that these guys played, but it was Indiana's first game too. It
was.
So it's I don't know.
That's why it's good it happens in the preseason.
Yeah, and to Finch's point, like good thing it happened.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe Indiana does come here early in the season, if I'm not mistaken, or early in the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, they'll have them for real, I think, in the first couple of weeks of the season. I have to take a look at that. But yeah, I think it's good to put this on tape for the Wolves, because I think it could be a real teaching moment for Finch to say, hey, listen, guys, like these are the things we got to do against this team. We got to figure out a way to get the ball up the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do have an opportunity to run on them, you got to take it. You can't, just like with Oklahoma City last year, you know, you can't let them slow down your rhythm, because then you get in the half court, and Indiana's not the best defensive team in the world, but they give a crap, and they gave a crap tonight. And then each end of the floor kind of complements the other. And I think that's where the Wolves have struggled, is having their defense, which can be very good to elite, complement what they do on offense. We hear it all the time that things kind of, you know, sometimes it feeds into each other. I don't think the Wolves are especially good at like turning their good defense into good offense. I don't think they're inconsistent at it, I should say. I think sometimes they can do it, but overall, I don't think that they don't maximize the opportunities that their defense presents to them. Whereas Indiana, you give them any kind of missed shot, any kind of turnover, and off they go. And even on the possessions that they were missing tonight, it was generally pretty good looks.
Right.
You know?
They were doing what they wanted to do.
Yes.
You know, and as you're talking there, I was like, yeah, Indiana was like dictating, right?
They were.
And
they were in charge of this game.
And that's not what the Wolves want to be. That's not what the Wolves want to have happen. You were being a good proactive reporter, and you decided to go over to the Indiana post-game press conference.
Yeah.
While I lazily sat in Finch's and listened.
Not lazily, you were doing your job. You're reporting for the people out there.
Yeah, sure.
Yep. Getting those
Preseason
clips
for me too.
Getting those clips.
But you went over there with what we were talking about in the media section while we were watching the game. You're like, hey, I think I'm gonna go over to Indiana because transition is a point of emphasis for this Timberwolves team. Indiana is the number one team in the league at doing that. Why are they so good at doing that?
Yeah.
So I wasn't there. I don't know what was said when you ask the players or coaches about kind of instilling that into them as part of their basketball identity. I'm curious, what did they say?
Yeah, so I talked to two players. I went up to Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nebhard, and just kind of the kind of hypothesis was like, you know, you guys came out tonight and you were doing your thing. You're picking up 94 feet. You're getting out in transition. Like, even though it's just the preseason, you're doing your thing. And I just was like, how long, especially for Nesmith and Nebhard, who have been there for a few years, how long did it take for this to really stick? And Aaron Nesmith said, probably about my whole first year, we were figuring it out. And Nebhard said, the whole first year, you're just developing the habits. And so it's a long, like, not just going to be a training camp is what is my takeaway from it. Right. You're not just going to devote 3 weeks to this and then suddenly, oh, we're going to be a better transition team. These guys were saying it took the course of like a whole season in some cases to develop the habits. And Nembhard sounded a lot like Rudy Gobert did the other week. It was like almost carbon copy of what Gobert said. It's like developing the habits of running to the corner, of spacing the floor for each other. Having that become ingrained in you is such an essential part of this. There's a chemistry aspect to it too, and just kind of figuring out how to play with your teammates. Now the Wolves have some familiarity here. They have continuity with this group, not necessarily playing that way, but at least they have continuity with each other. Indiana at first didn't. So that's a key difference. And then another point that they made was you just got to commit the effort to it. Game 60, you're on a back-to-back. This is how you play, though. So you got to bring it. And, Nembhard said once the habits kind of clicked in, they were there. And so I think that's what Rudy Gobert was trying to say is we got to get to that point as a team. And
second nature,
right? Where fatigue, schedule, whatever the schedule is doing to your body,
right.
That it doesn't matter. It's not an excuse. And this is your style of play. This is your identity. And this is how you're going to go out and get a win in the middle of February.
I think it's one of the most interesting things about basketball that habits do need to settle in.
They do,
and I think for anybody who's played basketball to some extent, that makes a little bit of sense of it's different to go out there and play, when the lights are on and the action is fast and you're going, and it's so easy to revert to previous habits, which is what just happened tonight for the Wolves. That first quarter looked like the first quarter from last year.
Yeah, there was nothing notably different.
And I don't think that it, being around the team for the last week, I do take them at face value that this has been something that they've been working on in practice. Every player that we've talked to and interviewed has said, this is a point of emphasis. We are running to the corner here. We are doing these things. We are making it a point to get it to Mike when after we get the rebound, rather than everybody kind of coming to the ball. But you get on the floor, the lights turn on, and you revert. So yeah, it's going to be bad if it takes a year. I do wonder, though, to the continuity point, if that expedites this a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think right now I feel confident predicting that the Wolves are not going to be lead the league in transition in the first month of the season. It's going to take some time, but it is okay for something to settle in the middle of the season or even the end of the season. I mean, that was basically the story of the Wolves last year, right? Of they designed this offense and the style that they wanted to play. And as we documented, it was week after week. It was this, Finch's line, right? Was the cake. It's going to take some time for the cake to bake.
Yep.
And this is, I think, this major shift in the frequency with which you run and get out and playing just at a faster tempo is going to take a while, because it's going to be a massive shift. What's the number? 27th in transition frequency last year? And you're not going to be able to flip that overnight.
So that's why I think their goal is to just be kind of middle of the pack, right? You're not trying to be in Indiana. You're trying to be average at this. And that's an attainable goal. I think when you see tonight, it is not an attainable goal to just turn into the Indiana Pacers overnight, but to be,
it's like easier to be like, oh, we're going to be a team who shoots more threes.
Right.
That's more of like a stylistic choice.
Right.
Or, I mean, some of that's habits, but it's a little different. Like you're designing your offense to it. This playing in transition and playing with speed is instinctual, and that's,
And that's what Andrew Nembhard also said. He's, the habits, he's like, we broke the habits throughout the course of the season. He said it's a lot easier said than done for sure, but at this point, the continuity makes it easier for us. So again, the Wolves have that continuity that they should at least have familiarity with each other and what they're trying to accomplish and what everybody does well and what they're trying to get to with everybody. I wonder if it looks a little different with Jaden tonight out on the floor, because he can be such an essential part of their transition attack A, and then just their best defender, perimeter defender B. Hope slowing things down on the other end of the floor. So he wasn't there tonight. I wonder if it looks a little different with him on the floor. But yeah, it just overall, I think this is kind of the story of the Finch tenure, the cake has to bake.
Yeah.
When it comes to whatever they're trying to do. And we've seen it take half a season sometimes. We've seen it take whole seasons sometimes with what they're trying to accomplish at the beginning of the season. So, yeah. So 2 weeks from now when they're in Portland and it's not exactly a run and gun style of offense, we shouldn't be surprised, because I think tonight showed that that's going to be more of an uphill climb than maybe just what they're saying in practice.
Yeah, the habit patterns of running to the corner and getting those hit ahead passes, I think that's going to take time. I think the first game where we go, the transition was really good, is going to be a game where the guy who got the rebound grabbed it and went.
Yeah.
Julius, I think, is the biggest one there. I think that one's a little bit more intuitive rather than somebody getting the rebound, hit a head pass to someone, hit a head pass to someone else. Like they want to get there. You know what I'm saying? I just think it's a little more like running the ball. Like, all right, Julius, you got the defensive rebound. Go. Just go straight. And that to me is attainable.
I think that's 100% right. And like I said, Jaden, I think, can also be a weapon when it comes to that stuff.
A grab and go guy there for sure. Today's show is brought to you by Falling Knife Brewing Company here in Northeast Minneapolis. And I was at Falling Knife this weekend before the Wolves preseason game on Saturday night. Falling Knife was celebrating 6 years in business with their anniversary party there. And being at that anniversary party got me excited for Wolves Fest. Wolves Fest is at Falling Knife on October 18th from 3 to 9 p.m. And amongst many festivities that will be going on at Falling Knife that day, Britt, Kyle, and I will be doing an outdoor live show at 5 p.m. So we would love it if you put that date on your calendar. Again, it's October 18th from 3 to 9 p.m. And we, again, are going at 5 p.m. for the live show. They are also releasing our pod-themed beer, Second Apron, that day. And yeah, this is going to be fun. Put it on your calendar, October 18th, be there. And then also, just last thing I wanted to note, when there's games on, they're going to be on at Falling Knife. So if you're looking for a place to watch these preseason games or when the regular season comes around, Falling Knife Brewing Company in Northeast Minneapolis. Today's show is also brought to you by Prize Picks. And with the NBA season here, I want to direct you to the NBA season-long tab at Prize Picks. You remember, like, when we were talking about season-long NFL Prize Picks a couple months ago before the NFL season started? It's like more or less than 1,400 rushing yards for Saquon Barkley, or more or less than 3,700 passing yards for Josh Allen, whatever. There's a bunch of them. Well, they have that for the NBA too. The NBA work in terms of per game averages. So you'll see Anthony Edwards on there, more or less than 27.5 points per game this season, or more or less than 11.4 rebounds per game for Karl Anthony Towns in New York. I've had fun tracking my season-long NFL picks, and I think it's a good way to have something to track for the NBA as well. There's always something going on over at Prize Picks. As a reminder, to put together a lineup at Prize Picks, all you need to do is put 2 or more picks in your lineup to win. If you don't yet have a Prize Picks account, create one and use the promo code DANE when you sign up, and you will receive $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com or the Prize Picks app using promo code DANE. Sure. How did Ant look? What did you think of Ant in the first time we've seen him?
Okay, I guess. What was he, 6 for 15? I'm trying to pull up the box score here. Good radio here.
I wrote down 16 shots.
Yeah.
And I looked at the chart of shot selection, and it was 3 shots at the rim, 2 from like that floater range, 5 from like true mid range, and 6 from 3. And that's something I'm going to be looking at every game. Not judgmental of the mid range necessarily, but
sure,
but acknowledging if it's a different volume of it, you know.
It certainly seems like that's what he was gonna I mean, he came out, you said 5 mid-range shots.
5 mid-range and like 2
shots.
from floater range. So that all kind of like gets accounted as mid-range. So that's 7 of your 16 shots. What's that, like 45%, something like that. 28% of his shots were from floater range or mid-range last season. So obviously one game, but that's the alleged adjustment, right? That he wants to have. It's, the thing is it's just going to come at the cost of the rim or the three. 6 of the 16 shots were still threes, in this game. Cool. That's 40 some percent of the shots. But it's 3 at the rim, and it's that simple. That is the opportunity cost of leaning into the mid-range a little bit more. Preseason game, like you want to have this be part of your game. Your first shot of the preseason was a mid-range shot. I get it, and we've talked about the value that could potentially come from this late in games, end of quarters, those sort of things of Ant being able to create for himself and getting that shot from the mid-range. But it is a proceed with caution, I think, situation if you are hoping to have the same scoring output, efficiency, all that sort of stuff that he had a season ago when he had his best offensive season of his career.
Yeah. I mean, you said what the box score says 5 threes over.
So maybe it was a heave or something like that. I don't know. Those don't count anymore.
Yeah, one of them was a heave. Yeah. So box score says 5 3-point attempts in 18 minutes. So extrapolate that and
10,
close to 10 3-point attempts.
Mm-hmm.
So
the rim was.
You think the rim is going to be where the cost is?
I mean, it was in this game,
and then potentially subsequently at the free throw line.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
and that's again, it's not trying to be like total math guy, but it's just like.
Aren't you the guy with like your spreadsheets on a beer or something like that, Mr.
Yeah.
I'm not a math guy.
I'm just saying, dude, it's like if you get to the free throw line, you're at 80% shooter. It's simple math, man. That's 1.6 points right there. A 40% three is 1.2 points. A 40% two, like a mid-range shot, is
maybe
0.8.
they need to put the shot values back on the practice board again. Is that what you're saying?
That is
anytime Ant enters the facility.
Deep joke right there.
Anytime Ant enters the facility, there's the shot values on the floor, right?
Then he goes, "Oh, okay. So stay away from here."
Red in the middle.
But then once there's a couple minutes left,
line.
It turns green.
Yes.
Yeah, we get like dynamic spots.
He cut for a layup. Did you see that? That was, a little more of that. That would be good. That'd be good for everybody. I think he was intentional, I think, at times about trying to find Rudy. I noticed that, but that was also kind of a thing last preseason, especially with the lobs that he was trying to work in. You remember that? There was like one game where he had a lob to Rudy, and I think he was in Chicago.
Yep.
And the internet went crazy. It's like, oh no, he's throwing lobs to Rudy. Watch out. And then that didn't become a thing.
I did like that play to Rudy though. I think he had the double came and he there was like a long bounce pass to him, a little low. Rudy caught it.
That was good. That was encouraging. And so I think he was trying stuff out. I think overall, this was Ant just trying stuff out tonight, which is why I'm like, he was okay, because I think he clearly was just trying to experiment with some stuff.
And
which is what the preseason's for.
Absolutely. No, and I'm more than anything, I'm just curious. I'm curious to see what this ends up being. And and we'll do the thing when it's a bunch of mid-range shots and the percentage isn't there, but I want to be sure to point out when it is clutch time and Ant, whatever the first close game of the season, and Ant makes 2 or 3 shots from the mid-range in the final 5 minutes, like not all shots are created equal, and the math part of my brain needs to, acknowledge that part of it too. So, we'll see what that looks like, in time, and over the course of the season, what is in fact important to him. I want to talk a little bit about the rotation. We got that note from Finch at practice yesterday. I'll play this clip about how he's going to be able to get to 10 or 11 guys.
Yeah, I think role acceptance is going to be huge for us. We feel like we know we're going to have an 8-9 rotation for sure. Probably could push to 10. But whoever plays at 9 and 10 might be different every night amongst a small group of guys. So they got to be ready. They got to, stay sane and stay focused on, what the main task is, and that is trying to advance this team and win.
What do you make of this idea and like that in practice? I guess to reiterate, it sounds like maybe there'll be 8 guys every night.
Right.
And we're assuming Shannon as the 8th guy right now.
Right.
And then I think what he's talking about there is from a short group of guys: Rob Dillingham, Jalen Clark, Johan Beringer,
Bones Highland.
I'm not ready.
I'm not ready
to go there.
I'm not ready after tonight either.
He said a short list, so I'm keeping it at 3.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to put Beringer there quite yet. I don't think so. Not yet.
Yeah,
I could be wrong, but not yet.
So how I read that is situational, matchup dependent. When Kyle and I talked about the first preseason game against Denver, we highlighted the good things about Beringer, but we also highlighted that he had to guard Jonas Valanciunas and Nikola Jokic when he was out there, and he's literally 18 years old, and those guys are big.
Welcome
That's
to the NBA,
right? And so right, like,
yeah.
If that was the opponent, or if New York was the opponent, he has to guard Cat or something like that, then those would be for sure flex Beringer out of the rotation, even if he is on that short list. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe it's an opponent that you need a lot of ball containment on the perimeter, and you're then posed with the choice between Jalen Clark and Rob Dillingham. Maybe that's a night where Jalen Clark is the main guy in the rotation there over Rob, or he's the 9th guy. And if you need pace, you need scoring, you need a little bit more playmaking, then it's Rob. That all makes sense to me.
Right.
I do wonder about it in practice, like in the games. Is it weird as a player to be like, okay, you are Jalen Clark, and on Tuesday you played 18 minutes against the Suns, and then the games on Thursday and Friday you didn't play at all? As Fitch said, you got to stay ready, you got to stay sane, you got to do all those things, but that's also probably a little bit easier said than done.
I think that's a little easier, I think, for somebody who's wired like Jalen Clark to handle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little harder for a Rob Dillingham, who's probably got to get into the flow of a game and feel it out. Jalen Clark coming out and guarding his butt off for 4 minutes, and maybe that's all he plays on a given night, is something he can do. But if you're only giving 4 minutes to Rob Dillingham, then what's the point?
Yep.
So I think it's different depending on who you're talking about.
Yeah, that's really good. That's a good point. Then a distinction to be made, and I think if this is the strategy of changing the 9th, 10th guy every night, how do you care for Rob in that? You know what I mean? If that is true of needing the rhythm, needing the reps, needing those sort of things, it's a lot easier. I can picture in my head a lot more. All right, here's a game, Jalen Clark. We need you. You bring him in the second quarter, as he did tonight.
Yeah,
he came in and flipped the game.
With Jalen Clark, watching him out there, watching him last year too. I know, he's not a perfect player by any stretch, but like, he does something really, really well right now at a very high level, and I think that's a valuable thing to have in a piece of your rotation. Mm-hmm. And he can come in and change a game and affect a game. Like, he was, the best thing they had going for a couple of minutes out there tonight when he checked in.
And he didn't check in until 16 minutes into the game. So he was like the 10th or 11th guy.
The 10th guy in the rotation on a night when Jaden was also out.
Yep.
So, yes, I watching him out there tonight, I kind of had that thought of, Jalen's got to see the floor, because I think you just got to see what kind of a spark he can light for you with his defense, man. Like,
But isn't the direct externality there no Rob?
I know that's the problem.
I hear you.
I hear you too, but
Yeah.
I was on here last week saying they got to give Dillingham a long runway this year, because you got to find out what you have both for this year and beyond. But I see Jalen Clark and I'm like, this dude just he's earning minutes. Like he's earning, he seems to earn his playing time. And with Rob right now, that's why I wonder just how many minutes there are to go around. And we've heard this talk. How many times have we kind of been in this cycle preseason with Finch, where we're talking about 10 guys in the rotation, and then by night 2, it's down to 8, right? That's where we were last year. And that's where we were in previous years. And the 9th guy is maybe the guy that gets the 4 minutes, like maybe checks in for, like Jalen Clark could be the 9th guy, because he could be that guy that takes the last 2 minutes of the first quarter from Ant. Like that could be his 4-minute stretch, right? That he would be that guy. With Rob, you just, if Rob Dillingham is going to play, you got to give him, I think you got to at least give him into the low double digits.
Right. I'd use the Mike Conley thing of last year when they started really shrinking the length of Mike Conley's shifts, and you play for like 4 minutes at a time rather than like 7 or 8. He lost rhythm. He talked about it. It's hard to get going. And I think at that position, if Mike Conley, 20 years in the league, whatever, is struggling in that role of playing for just a 4-minute stint and finding a rhythm, what's 20-year-old Rob Dillingham
precisely
supposed to do? And it has me wondering if he's going to be in the rotation right away. If that's what it is, if that's all that is available.
So let's pull on this thread a little bit.
Yep.
Let's take a night like tonight where Rob was clearly struggling.
Yep.
Clearly struggling with the ball pressure, turning the ball over, 1 for 7, 3 turnovers. What do you do?
I don't know.
Do you pull him after one shift and say, Rob, just not your night tonight? Sit the rest of this one out? Do you put him back in the second half and just hope it goes better? What do you do? You're trying to win a game, potentially. You're trying to give him the runway to learn and grow, make mistakes maybe, and learn from them. But man, it was a little rough out there.
Right, absolutely. I mean,
what do you do?
My answer to that would be like 15 minutes or nothing.
Yeah.
I really like, I don't know. I'm not a coach, and they'll figure it out. But in my head, these little fragmented things, I think, could almost do more damage than being out of the rotation.
Yeah.
Completely, because there isn't the rhythm that you can get into. He can't do that. He's not going to be, it seems unlikely to me that he's going to be able to do the Rob Dillingham things, pace, break the paint, play make for other players. If it's just in, here's 4. I mean, dude, we saw this last year.
Right.
I mean,
it was hard for him
not
going to help his confidence. Like doing that. You pull Jalen Clark after 4 minutes, it's not going to affect his confidence.
Right.
You pull Rob Dillingham.
He's like, thank you for the 4 minutes.
Thank you for the 4 minutes. Rob Dillingham is going to, you pull Rob Dillingham after 4 minutes, or you don't play him in the second half after playing him in the first half. It's going to it might mess with his confidence. So this is why,
right.
You make big bucks as an NBA head coach, because what do you do here?
Right. It is a tricky situation.
A tricky needle to thread.
Are we giving penning in Terrence Shannon Jr. to this 8th role too early?
But I think, well, to your point, I don't think Terrence Shannon is not going to get, at least we don't think, maybe he will, but likely not. He's not going to get the full complement of what Nikhil got last year, right?
True. Mm-hmm.
Like he's not going to be, what was Nikhil, like mid-20s?
22.
22? Okay.
Mm-hmm. So probably in a game where
if he ends up like 16 or 17, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then that leaves a little more room for like Rob's second shift in the second half, potentially, right?
If we anticipate all other things stay equal amongst the starters, which the one spot I think might be a little bit different of the main guys is I feel like Nas is going to play more. He hinted at practice the other day when we were talking. He said, I think some things might be a little bit different about when I play.
I didn't catch that when
And it was, I kind of followed up on it. He didn't answer it specifically, but it was about like when you come in and staying ready or whatever. He's got some question about that. And I just think it's part of the contract, man. I think it was like part of the contract. The verbal agreement was like, hey,
a few more minutes.
Yeah, and probably at the 3, maybe that's, as we saw tonight, he played there some. Maybe part of it is Rudy's per game average goes down by like 3 a game or something like that. I would take the over on minutes per, whatever he averaged minutes per game.
I think you're right that maybe that comes at a little of the expense of Rudy, just to keep Rudy a little fresher and maintain him. So if you uptick Nas by like 2 to 3 minutes and downtick Rudy by 2 to 3 minutes a night, especially because like again late in the season Rudy was playing very high 30s. So I think there's room to take a few minutes from his plate, and you can give those to Nas without much of a sweat. So,
but that doesn't solve our problem.
No, it doesn't. No, it does not.
That's a repurposing of the starter minutes. Maybe he gets a little bit of the Nikhil minutes, and then that's okay. Now TJ's playing 15, 16 minutes a game.
We need a spreadsheet, is what we need.
Yeah,
I think that's what I'm hearing right now.
Yes. I don't know. Like I do think that it's Terrence Shannon Jr.'s job. I do think Terrence Shannon Jr.'s skill set feels pretty bankable to me. I feel like I know what I'm going to get from him. I think Finch knows what he's going to get from him.
Is this Terrence Shannon Jr. talking about, or Jalen Clark?
Terrence Shannon Jr. Yeah. Well, both. I mean, but Terrence even more of. So I don't know, and maybe am I locking him into that 8-minute role and giving him the whole Nikhil thing when that's not the case? Because if he's split up and he's maybe just 5 minutes in the first half and 5 minutes in the second half, Shannon, then that's 10, and now we can talk about the 9th and 10th guys getting 10, 12 minutes themselves, as well. I do think though TJ's 8, and I think TJ's
a solid 8. I think that's solidified.
Yeah,
I do. I think so, and I think early in the season Rob is going to get this kind of runway, and they'll see how it goes. They'll see if they're winning games. I mean, look, if you're able to withstand a night like tonight with Rob, and I mean they were down big. Nobody, and to be fair, nobody was really playing that well tonight.
No. Yeah. Rob wasn't like Rob. Egregiously worse than
everybody else.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
But it was not a good. It was worse than the first game. And I haven't seen anything from Rob Dillingham in the first 2 games of preseason that indicate to me that he is a vastly different player than he was a season ago. Are 2 preseason games enough for me to have seen that? Probably not. Look at last preseason. Nikhil was terrible in the preseason, trying to play point guard and didn't know what to do. And Finch said, let that go back to, going to do your thing. Dante DiVincenzo was a bucket all preseason, last year. And then he came in and it was like, at the beginning of the season, didn't even really feel like he understood where he fit. So we do this thing where we extrapolate too much from the preseason. So I want to remember that a little bit.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's 100% true. And then when the season started, Dante and Nikhil basically flipped bodies essentially. And early in the season, we were saying like Nikhil was like the second most valuable player on the team behind Ant, essentially, because he was just lights out. Dante was a big beneficiary of my new favorite term from Chris Finch, which is it's passing and cutting season.
Yeah, that was good. Hold on, no, I have that clip. I have that clip. Yeah, here it is.
Clip.
Yeah, I mean, this is passing and cutting season.
Right, that's right.
Let's just hope it lasts till April, and then we'll be fine.
It is passing and cutting season, and then the first game comes around and it's like, no,
passing and cutting season is over. That's right. Everybody get up your shots.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think back to the rotation for a second here with Rob. Passing and cutting would benefit Rob Dillingham.
Yep.
guys moving off the ball instead of and him facilitating a little bit of movement plays into his hands. So, and like you saw with the 9 assists against Denver, the shooting wasn't great, but 9 assists, you can't really argue with that. So keeping passing and cutting season going for a little while longer will benefit Rob Dillingham if he's just not dribbling out there on the paint, trying to break the paint on just the dribble alone. But
right.
like facilitating this movement and having guys move without the ball will go a long way towards helping him too. I believe that.
One thing I remember Finch saying tonight, you were in the Indiana one, but he was asked about Rob, and the line I believe was, yeah, Rob just needs to pick a direction and go a little bit more.
Yeah,
and that makes sense. It's just it's being a little bit more decisive, and part of that of going can function like a cut, especially if you're the point guard and you have the ball there, you can bring the ball through the lane, or you could puncture the paint and kick it out there and inspire that movement. Whereas I think what Finch is getting at is he's kind of going east, west, reversing course, east, and they do need him to be a little bit more north, south. And I think he has that in his game until the rim. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like he has the first step to be able to get by and go north south against anyone, right?
Yep.
And I don't know if he has the ability to go all the way there and take the bump from the center and finish, or get to the line and do those sort of things. But just decisively using that first step to get past the defender, force somebody else over, and now is cutting season, right? Now Jaden dive from the corner and do those sort of things. I think, to spin it positive on Rob, I think Rob can inspire passing and cutting season.
Okay.
Like a point guard, and everyone like, need a point guard. Like, sometimes a point guard instigates that, Today's show is brought to you by Treasure Island Resort and Casino. And every Sunday at Treasure Island, the Parlay Lounge is the spot to watch Vikings games. There are always prize giveaways and drink specials in the Parlay Lounge during Vikings games. They had a whole Bloody Mary spread set up there this past weekend for the early game in London. There is no Vikings game this weekend, though. Of course, it is the Vikings bye week. So it will be a Green Bay Packers watch party in the Parlay Lounge this weekend. Same deal for you Packer fans. Prize giveaways and drink specials. I've been to the Parlay Lounge. We've had a blast doing live shows and watch parties in the Parlay Lounge in the past. It's a great setup for watching a game, and I think you will enjoy yourself at one of those watch parties. Make sure Treasure Island is your home for every Vikings game this season, and visit ticasino.com for more information. This show is brought to you by BetterHelp, and October 10th is World Mental Health Day, and BetterHelp's therapists have helped over 5 million people worldwide on their mental health journeys. That's millions of stories, millions of journeys, and behind every one is a therapist who showed up, listened, and helped someone take a step forward. Moments in therapy, like learning to relate to your kids, healing relationships, or coping with loss, can change lives. And this World Mental Health Day, BetterHelp is honoring those connections and the therapists who make them possible, while showing how easy it is to get guidance from a licensed therapist online with BetterHelp. BetterHelp does the initial matching work for you so you can focus on your therapy goals. This World Mental Health Day, we're celebrating the therapists who have helped millions of people take a step forward. If you're ready to find the right therapist for you, BetterHelp can help you start that journey. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/DaneMoore. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DaneMoore.
You're 100% right, which is why they need him to break the paint, because it does facilitate the movement. I think just watching up close tonight, there are times where it just felt like he got to the lane and he just didn't quite know what to do next.
Right.
And it usually resulted in a bad pass. And there were a couple times it got stolen, and a couple other times the ball just got knocked out of bounds. So it not only a decisiveness at the first step, but that kind of carries over to the end of the play where it's like, well, I've got one guy on my hip, I've got one guy in front of me at the rim. what do I do? Do I put it up? No, I'm probably going to get blocked. So I'm just going to throw it along the baseline.
And they're bigger and stronger
kick
and
it
faster
out
and
and-
taller
Mhm,
than when you were doing that in college.
Yep.
You
Yep,
know,
and-
I think he can do it,
Mhm.
but it's harder now. You know, it's just, well, welcome to the NBA. You know, like that's just, that's part of it. One of the other young guys, Johan Beringer, didn't do much in this game. Frankly, he didn't play that well either.
No.
But I thought this was interesting from Finch, and actually an interesting juxtaposition against this whole Rob conversation and Rob finding his way. You know, he talks here about Johan Beringer having no bad NBA habits. Here's Finch on Beringer. San Diego, I think a reporter asked you about Johan Beringer, and you described him as fearless.
Yes.
And that's always seemed like a high praise
Yes.
term from you over the years. And I know that's a good thing to be fearless, but I'm wondering, like, why is that such a important attribute to you?
Well, I think it certainly indicates toughness, you know, first and foremost. And, you know, you come into a league with grown men and professionals and a lot of things going on out there on the floor at any given time, and you know, you can be easily intimidated by it, you know, or you can give it too much respect maybe sometimes, and give these players too much respect. So I think he's just come in, he's attacked it. I think he only knows one way to play, which is great. You know, he has, like, again, we said he has like no bad NBA habits. You know, he's as pure as they come when it comes to that, which is great because, you know, we can now teach him exactly what we want to teach him, and he's surrounded by incredible pros on this team, and you know, I think that's certainly going to help him. But you know, what he has is unbelievable feel, and he's just not afraid of the moment. He's not afraid of the environment.
I mean, for a coach that everyone thinks hates young guys.
That was a
Right?
great answer. I mean, yeah, very revealing. Very revealing.
It's I think Finch's frustration with young players over the swath of his time here is not that they're young, it's that they have bad habits,
Right.
you know, that go against the flow of the offense or the concepts of the defense that they're trying to do. Sounds like with Johan Beringer, it feels like you pull a string and he goes this way and he goes that way. And as we know from Jalen Clark, like we were just talking about, Terrence Shannon Jr., the most important thing to Finch for breaking a rotation is understanding your job description and doing it. And they can be basic job descriptions, as they are going to be for the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th man. Jalen Clark's is simple. Terrence Shannon Jr.'s is pretty simple. And I think what he's saying there is he believes if an opportunity arises that he can say, Johan, X, Y, Z, and
Right.
Johan will do X, Y, and Z there. But that was a ringing endorsement.
It is
from
It
the
is. That
head
should,
coach.
that should get the fan base a little pumped up
Sure.
about Johan Beringer, and you see it in the way he plays. I was, watching his first minutes the other night in Denver, and Jonas Valanciunas is backing it down on the post, and I was like, "Oh, this is." I thought about it in my head. I was like, "Oh, this is a great test."
Yeah.
For Beringer, like Jonas Valanciunas is as big as they come, man.
Totally.
You know? I said, here it is, right here. And he'll learn from that. You know, he's still gonna build up the muscle, but I think you're right, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of like what Finch was saying about Ant early in his career. And I think when I hear Finch say like he has no bad habits, or like no with Ant, he said he realized Ant had no habits. Ant didn't have bad habits. Ant had no habits.
Yeah.
So it wasn't an indictment of Ant. And he said that changed the way that he kind of viewed young players. His experience with Ant was, given, Ant's situation growing up and how, he developed through high school. It's like, well, nobody ever really taught Ant like how to maybe do things the right way, or at least for a
Mhm.
long period of time, right? So I think when I hear Finch say that about Beringer, I think that's a product of what he was gone through with player development here with the Wolves, which is, oh, he just doesn't really kind of know
Yeah.
yet. We can teach him. He just doesn't really maybe know things right now. And that makes sense given that Beringer hasn't played professional basketball for more than a handful of years so far. So I think they see a great teaching opportunity here, which is also why I'm still not, when you mentioned Beringer on the cusp of the rotation,
Sure.
I'm like, I'm a little,
I'm with that.
I don't see it just yet. I think you're still a ways away because you have to really drill in some of these things. And maybe that means, time in Iowa, a couple games in Iowa, a lot of stay in shape league stuff. But yeah.
But it opens up the possibility in Finch's mind that he is this ball of clay
Correct.
that we can mold, which means there's a chance that over these next 3 months, as we mold it, that come January, maybe it's been molded enough to, all right, Julius Randle rolled his ankle. We want to inject another big into the rotation. I think that's what Finch's hope is. And frankly, that's kind of a need on this team. And there has, Julius missed a month last year.
Right.
Rudy missed 10 games
weeks,
or something
2
like
weeks,
that.
3 weeks. Yeah.
Nas was healthy for the most part, but part of surviving in the season is when the random injury does come up, that you have answers, behind them there. And I would imagine if I was Chris Finch, say, all right, we got this 18-year-old French kid, like your initial thought is probably a couple of years until look at Leonard Miller, look at Josh Minot, look at typically these younger guys that they've drafted as projects as a couple of years down the road. I think what Finch is saying is this might not be as far down the road as
we think,
as you would think on paper when you see this dude who was playing in the B League in Slovenia a year ago. Which is just great news. That's great news. Even if he's not on the fringe of the rotation, great news if that's what the coach is saying. And everybody you've talked to else around the team, that's the number one thing. You just say, oh, what's up with the team this year? Who's showing up? Yoan. That's what people say.
The instincts jump off the page.
Mm-hmm.
The athleticism jumps off the page. The potential offensively is there, and that's what I think I'm most intrigued by. Whether it's his catching ability, whether it's can he develop some sort of regular shot or push shot or whatever.
Just what he was doing in the game against Denver.
Yeah,
just that, and he was getting cooked on defense by Valanciunas and Jokic, but we were like, we caught that one. Yeah, he dunked that one.
Yeah, we're not used to seeing that.
He ran. It's a part of that.
Jarring.
It
was kind of jarring. It's like, oh wait, oh wow, that looked really good.
Yeah. Which is just not that's not Rudy's offensive game, right? It just isn't. So, if Yohan can do that on offense, he's going to be the only 7-footer on the Wolves who can do those things on offense. That's got to be exciting to Finch as a coach too.
And that opens up maybe eventually, not right away, but maybe just opens up the playbook a little bit more and the things you can do offensively with a guy like that. And by the way, to circle back a little bit, we're talking about injuries. They're not going to be healthy all year,
right?
And so some of these rotation questions are just going to sort themselves out by nature of injury. Like, for how many games are they going to be perfectly healthy this year?
Right.
If you had to wager, right?
No,
so
somehow they rolled off like the first 2.5 months last season,
right?
And we're like, wait, only 8 guys, but yeah, like what unfortunately happened to Dante. It's just that's probably going to happen to somebody at some time, and then this whole spreadsheet that you're referencing, you rip it up and you figure out a new one. And
the Rob Dillingham minutes don't become as big of an issue anymore.
Yeah. So it is all of this young guys, rotation, all of that should be viewed through the lens, first and foremost, that on opening night, there's 240 minutes to play. And we can't give everybody 20, 30 minutes. It's not,
Right.
it doesn't fit. But it should also be viewed through the lens of the rotation that we see on opening night is not necessarily what the rotation is going to be for the first 2 months, because one, Fitch could change it, or two, probably in the first 2 months, somebody's gonna, miss some time. And as you said, this will begin, sorting itself out a little bit.
But it makes good podcast content. to
Exactly.
argue
Exactly.
over the
It's the
rotation.
preseason, man.
This
We
is
need
what
it.
we do.
You got your newsletter rolling again?
Yes, we got that out this week.
First explain how and where, people can sign up for that.
Yeah, I put a link on my Twitter and Blue Sky feeds. If you
I
didn't,
think if you read any article at the Star Tribune,
it
too,
pops
pops
up. Yeah, I think that's true. And I had some people text me or hit me up and saying they didn't get it today. So if you signed up for it last year and you're not getting it, you should have gotten it this week. Go re-enter your email address or something on the link on my Twitter feed. And if you have any issues with that, like shoot me a message or something like that, because I want to make sure that people who listen to this, people who are diehard Wolves fans who like this content, make sure they get it. So please hit me up if you're not getting it. But yeah, so we're back for another year of this. I did it last year. I thought it was fun because it's a little more informal kind of writing. I get to do a first person thing at the end of it, Tales from the Beat, which I always try to enjoy coming up with ideas for that. And yeah,
I feel like it blends your if you've read Chris in the Star Tribune, you've obviously listened to him on the podcast. I feel like it's a good combination of those two things. It's your Timberwolves writing, but it's also more of your personal voice, which you take out a little bit as a nuts and bolts reporter when you're covering a game. We talked about it last year. I enjoyed it. It did show up in my inbox, and I read it, and I liked how you were right off the bat. You got personal.
I did
with the Tales of the Beat part, which I think is an interesting thing. You're this traveling around the country sort of. It's a unique job. It's your eighth year?
Season, yeah.
On the Beat, and I don't know if you want to share or get into that a little bit, but I thought it was cool that you shared some of the difficult part of what most people would on pay-per-view as, oh, you have this really cool job, traveling.
And it is, and it is, and I'm very thankful, and hopefully we get to keep doing this job into the future. But yeah, the last 15 months were difficult. I'm not gonna lie. Writing a book was very hard and challenging while still doing my job. I talked in there about you feel insecure, you feel imposter syndrome. I felt very lonely at times when I was writing the book, because you're just very much in your own head.
Right.
At times when you're doing this, you wonder if you're good enough. That was a very big part of this. And some things it kind of extended into, even when I was done with the book, it kind of extended into the season, and some other things popped up in my life, personal, professionally, whatever, that just kind of contributed to a rough year where I just didn't really feel like myself. And so, all the time on your podcast, you were advertising for BetterHelp. So I was like, I'm going to use promo code Dane.
Okay.
Yep. And I did that back in like May or June. And so I started, talking to therapists and things like that, and feel like we're back on the upswing, made some needed changes in my life. And I think we're back to feeling like myself a little bit.
Good,
as
man.
we enter season 8. So
I mean, we're just friends, and and so we see parts of each other's life like outside of work, and know that too. And obviously, you and I have been since the book, especially. I mean, I remember when you told me about when you got the book, and we were at some airport. We were traveling for the 23-24.
I think we were in MSP going to Denver.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That was when I found out.
Yeah. For that series, and I was obviously like so pumped for you. But I remember the first thing is I was like, when are you gonna write this? And you're like, this summer, and I was like, whoa, and you took it on, and you did it, but as you said, it comes with a cost. Like
it
that
did come with a cost. It definitely did. But let me be clear that the book was not the main. It was a driving force in some of this.
Just
But
there were
a lot
of
but there was a lot. There was a lot of stuff going on.
Mhm.
And so the point of all this is like, I know it makes seem like kind of cliche, but like, just if you're not feeling like yourself or whatever,
Mhm.
you know, just depressed, down, lonely, just I think professional help it can't hurt. So
Mhm. No, I
reach out and try to get some help.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny you reference the ad read or whatever, but I do actually like believe in the idea that, you know, it's important to have friends and family and people to talk to. But sometimes it's good to have somebody who is parachuting into your life, you know, that doesn't know you from Adam and
Right.
is, you know, can just be a set of ears there. But what I was going to say as your friend is I've seen that, you know, kind of knowing that was a big year for you, and, you know, just even us kind of reconnecting after the summer. I actually said it to Kyle when he was in town. I was like, you know, Chris seems like he's in really good place. So I think that's that's a testament to you. And I know you said it wasn't all the book or anything, but it's you know, I didn't write a book, but I covered the last 2 seasons. And I was
that's a lot
myself.
too, man.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, covering these playoff runs is
For real.
tough.
Yeah.
The travel, the amount of content you're generating daily
after 6 months of a regular season.
Exactly. After covering an 82 game regular season,
Yeah.
it wears you down, man. It really does. And it can. And so, yeah, and I never had a break either. Like, you know, it was one long run into the book into another long season. So there was not many vacations being taken in there, you know. So, but
just you time. Yeah,
but I think, you know, I'm excited. I'm excited to get back into the rhythm of the season. I've already reached the point of the preseason where I'm like, let's just throw the ball up and go already. Like,
you mean like the first quarter tonight?
Yes. by the time we hit overtime, I was like, oh man, the regular season can't get out. It can't get here fast enough.
That overtime was just something special. I'm like, dude, I cover the team. I didn't know there was a guy in the team named Jules until today. I'm like, that was, you know, he made some buckets.
Yeah.
Cool. I appreciate you sharing that in your writing and sharing that here as well.
Thanks for letting me talk about it.
Yeah, of course. And like in the newsletter too, you know, we just reference like literally the clips I played, like those quotes were in Chris's newsletter that, you know, came out 24 hours, you know, before this is. And, you know, I try to incorporate clips and stuff like this, but I always say, you want them the fastest, you go to Chris, John, and Jace, you know, that's in your guys' stories right away as writers there. So you're already reading Chris in the newspaper, but I would recommend the
by
newsletter.
The way, newsletter is free. You don't need to subscribe to the Star Tribune to receive the newsletter. That's a key point.
There you go. That's good.
Yeah.
Good. You honed your sales pitch there. There we go. I appreciate you coming and doing this. I felt like this felt pretty good.
This is good.
You know,
now we can sleep in.
Exactly. Yeah. So we are going to you know, try to do this. And I do think it'll be, it is a little bit hard when there's like a big game and you go and you like write your story and all of that, and then you go to sleep and it kind of leaves your mind a little bit, and in the morning to come back. So I am excited for like the first time when there is a really close game or a really interesting game, and we're able to just kind of like dump our brains right away afterwards.
The
and
takes will be sizzling hot. There'll be
like
no
Johnny
time.
Juzang.
The takes will have no time to just kind of sit off to the side.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not really a take guy, but you know,
I'm gonna turn you into one.
Yeah.
New Chris.
maybe that's what we're doing. Maybe that's what I'm going to turn into this year. That's hot take corner.
Yep. That's it. Welcome to the DaneMoore NBA podcast. This is fun, man. You guys can follow Chris on Twitter at Christopher Hine. That'd be if you're looking for that link for the newsletter there, of course. And then, you know, maybe if you aren't subscribe to the Star Tribune, or maybe paused it or whatever, something like that, but you want your Wolves coverage, make sure you get that back going, because obviously Chris is putting in all the work there. Yeah, coming up next on the show, I got to think here for a second. We are going to have Jace on Thursday afternoon before the Wolves game against the Knicks. We haven't had the opportunity to have Jace on since training camp has been going. So along with Chris's story, has been reading Jace's. And so we'll kind of put together some topics from what Jace has been writing about as well. That will be the next episode in your feed. But until then, he's Chris. I'm Dane. Peace out.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah. Green and hot so you can find me in the crowd, yeah, yeah. Don't let standards ever bring you down, yeah. Hope you dancing.